reintegrating. Yeah, basically, yeah.
Welcome, Zach. Go ahead now. Yes, yes. We want
Okay.
to restart. Okay, so go ahead. Mhm.
Yeah. You want me to restart or?
Yeah, if you can restart, Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So my veteran journey started when I first got into the Marine Corps in 2004. Served through 2008. Went in Iraq in '05. Um, did that. After that, I went into the reserves for a little bit to make friends. After I came home, reintegrating back into civilian life was a really difficult struggle for me. And I noticed it was a lot for a lot of my friends as well. It wasn't just myself. I worked a lot of dead end jobs doing, night security, bouncing at nightclubs, worked at factories, and honestly hated all of them. It really wasn't my calling. And then one day, my buddy, who worked for the state of Wisconsin, assisting veterans, told me about openings at the Milwaukee VA to help veterans file for disability claims. I knew nothing about it at the time, but I said, "What the hell? I'm gonna do it." I didn't like what I was doing at the time, and I was like, "I got to do something new with my life quick. Otherwise, I don't think I'm gonna be here very long." I didn't. I wasn't very happy. And updated my resume. It was nothing fancy to look at. And then I dropped it off at all the offices there, and the VFW service office gave me a call. And day one, I just fell in love with it. And then I went to Racine County, did the same thing there, the Racine County Veteran Service Officer. Then I went to a local nonprofit to assist homeless veterans. Um, did that for a few years. And then I went into the veteran law field, and I did that for a few years to understand that sector. Um, and now I work at a different veteran law firm with a good friend of mine, and I manage a veterans department. Um, and now I'm starting a whole separate nonprofit here called VetMed, to assist veterans and their families with any needs they may have, specifically with their kids. Like I know a lot of veterans out there may be struggling and they don't have the resources or the funding to maybe buy their kids birthday presents or throw a birthday party, holiday presents, whatever the case might be. And with VetMed, I want that to be a resource that all vets can look to in order to kind of keep them moving forward and provide stability in their life. Because, I mean, I have three kids myself, and without them, I would not be here. And I understand that importance and the need to want to do more for your kids, and I want to provide that resource to vets as we continue to grow in this field.
That's amazing, Zach. Viewers, we had a little bit of a technical challenges in the beginning, but just reintroducing that Zach was telling us about the nonprofit VetMed that's focused on veteran stability and family support, and he has a very clear mission here, and that was some of his background for all of you. Zach, thank you for sharing that. When you said you spent a couple of years with homeless veterans, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
a follow-up question on that for you. Homeless veterans specifically, right? Are there some a set of unique challenges that you've noticed there, mental health and more? Is there something that you can tell us about that particular experience with homeless veterans?
Um, that was a very, I'll say, eye-opening experience for me. So when I went to that nonprofit I worked at, it was there was a lot of things I needed to learn. I didn't have any nonprofit experience, I'll be honest, at the time.
Mhm.
And one of the things I did when I got there was I needed to understand the homeless community as a whole. Now we know of it, but I didn't know what that meant specifically. So I went out with another nonprofit in the area that went out and assisted homeless people in the winter. They went out at night, gave them hot cocoa, blankets, stuff like that, and in hopes that they would take their support in order to get them rehoused somewhere. Um, and doing that, I learned that it is a very different community. I'll say in many words, because I saw specific people that were just struggling. They just gave up on life, and I saw it, night after night, and person after person. And I was just like, man. And I was thinking to myself, like, okay, is this is the field I'm getting into, assisting homeless vets? Now the veteran aspect brings a little different mentality to it, right? Because you can kind of connect with a lot of vets, whether they served in the Army, Navy, or Marines, whatever the case might be. So I had that to lean on. So when I went there and I started working at the nonprofit and bringing in homeless vets to assist them, I learned that it was a mental health problem, substance abuse, drug addicts, um, and every case was very different, right? Because some people came in, they didn't have any problems like that. They were just down their luck. But then other people, when their problems were bad, they were really bad. So I went to a lot of mental health summits, took a lot of courses during that time to continue learning because I know in this field, one thing that is important to know that nobody's an expert. You're always learning, no matter what is going on. And so I was doing my best to continue to stay on top of everything. Um, and with the mental health side of things, there's a lot of cases that were suicidal. Um, so I got real close with the local police department during that time because they would always give me a call whenever there's a homeless vet in the area. But also they called me whenever there's a suicidal vet in the area. So I would be going with them on calls to go meet with the vet at hotel rooms, at their homes, whatever the case was, to provide my assistance in any way I possibly could. Um, Incredibly stressful. I'm not going to lie to you. But it was a very, very good learning experience for myself throughout that whole time there.
That's eye opening, right? You kind of summed it up for us, but living that experience throughout going to those places, I know how much of a stress you would have undergone yourself. Just another follow up here. Wanted to understand, did you find a set of challenges that were unique to just this population in the sense, XYZ caused them into suicide or all of a sudden homelessness because they had never planned for it, right? Did you find any root causes, Zach, that you can share with us on how did they land up in that position?
Um, so I have my opinion on this, so I'll give
Yeah,
it to you.
yeah, yeah.
So one of the things like early on in this field, I noticed a lot of problems were happening with a lot of vets, right? No matter what the case was. And I was always curious before I got in, like, why is that? Why do vets have a specific problem and it's always consistent, whether it's, PTSD, homelessness, so on and so forth. And I was talking to a doctor once at a mental health summit, and he really broke it down pretty clear for me. Um, so he was talking to me, and he was like, "Okay," he's like, "Remember your time in Iraq?" I was like, "Absolutely." He's like, "Was it good or bad?" I was like, well, "It's life experience, right? Not great, not terrible, but there's bad days and there's great memories from it too with the buddies I served with. But yeah, it's war." And he was like, "What was one of the first things they said when you got there?" And for me, it was like, before we went into combat, our commander was like, "Hey, so get ready, guys. Hang on to that extra bullet just in case you need it. Put it in your flak, keep it there because you never know."
Mhm.
Me being 18 years old tells me, okay, if everything goes to hell, I'm gonna have to kill myself, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that it was only me. It was hundreds of us there, and it's like, okay, that's what if things go bad, that's where we go. That'll be fine, so that we don't end up on a video on YouTube or something. Um, and while I was understanding that, we do our time in service, then we get out. We're no longer with our buddies that had that same mentality while we're in. So now we have to get out and live a perfect life or normal life, whatever that is. Um, and a lot of vets, and myself included, I've struggled. I've had the gun in my head. It's a normal feeling for some of us, and that's the sad part, that it is a normalcy, and that's scary as hell.
Mhm.
But that first speed bump in life, whether it's a bad breakup, finance problems, work problems, that's one of the first places you go, because when you're 18, 19 years old, the military put that as like a comfort zone in your brain, that little black area that got bigger and bigger and bigger as you saw and did more stuff that maybe you weren't proud of or you saw that was terrible or experienced. And so, yeah, it's easy to go back to that black spot when you're not having a great day or work's not going well, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not saying this is for everybody, but understanding that for the Iraq War and Afghan War, it's scary that that's kind of where these vets are coming from and having to deal with that getting out in the civilian world that many civilians will never have to understand.
Mhm.
So,
And that is some real life experience right there. I'll dive into some of the previous work that you had done, and you did support the senior executives, and they wanted to ask you throughout your journey before you started working closely with veterans, what were some skills that translated into the nonprofit or community leadership for you?
um, some of my strongest leaders, I learned a couple things. My first one, he was a very smart man, a little abrasive, but he like knew everything. And when I came over and started working with him, he was like, "Hey, slow it down, slow it down." He always said, "Slow it down, slow it down," because I would always go like, "Go, go, 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 go." And then one day I kept going, and I got burnt out. And he said, "You see why I say slow down?" He's like, "You know, all that energy you have, you're putting it towards the moment that you're living in. Put that towards understanding the material and know everything. And when you walk into a room, that pace is based off of what you do and how you do it." And I was just like, man, that is real life experience to take with me right there. That was something I kept with me. And then when my next uh, boss I had, he really broke down the family aspect, and that people are people, and we all make mistakes. Um, Family is first. I strongly believe that. I've never been that like that with my employees. Like, family's first. Don't worry about it. But then something goes wrong. But well, you got to go. Then this ain't gonna work out. Like, I'll do everything I possibly can for them. But combining that mentality with the always do your best to know it all, I feel like I've done my very best to get there, and that's why I always have that constant learning that I'm doing. But those are two very good leaders that I've learned some really strong examples from.
Yeah. And that applies to all of us,
Mm-hmm.
everyone, even in the civilian world right now. So thank you for sharing those snippets with us. And I will talk about veteran stability now. We use this term veteran stability, or want to stabilize veterans, right? What does that actually mean in real world terms for you?
I mean, I think that is very different for all of us, if I'm
Right.
being real. For me, I could fill up my gas tank whenever I need to. That
Mm,
is an incredible feeling. I remember being right when I got out, it was like maybe $5 or $6 I was putting in, maybe getting 10 miles down the road, but that's all I had on me. Um, but also, I wasn't happy with myself. I was lying to myself. I was wearing a mask every day. I'm not saying I'm perfect now. I've learned to live with my mental health problem, my PTSD. I accept it for what it is. So stability for myself, it's waking up every day, having that purpose, um, being the best me I could be. When a lot of vets are lying to themselves, like I did for years, about who I am, why I'm doing this. I tell my family one thing, behind the scenes I'm crying myself to sleep. It's it's terrible. So stability is accepting whatever it is that's eating at you and living with it and then moving forward. Now, again, that's just my opinion. I feel like stability could be different for everyone, but that's kind of how I see it.
yeah. And viewers, what I love about Zach so far is that living wild, real experience and that empathy, because I've been there, done that. I know your struggle and I'm here to understand it. So I want
Mhm.
to take a moment to thank you for doing this for the veterans right now, right
Oh,
there.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So since I also work with a lot of veterans, but I want to understand your perspective. What are some of the most common gaps that you have seen for veterans who struggle with after transitioning into civilian life?
So that could be a very long way to answer, but I won't take up everything here. The resources are there.
Mm,
There's not a lack of resources. A lot of people may say that the resources are there. We're not exactly utilizing them the best way we possibly can, though, in my opinion.
mm,
And also, like, just to be honest, the nonprofit sector, depending on the community, can be real cutthroat,
mm,
because they are competing for funds and they don't necessarily collaborate the way they need to. I feel that is one of the biggest failures in our field and human services as a whole. That nonprofits, all these nonprofits do great things, right? Nobody says they do bad things. Most of them doing great things, but
mm,
they don't collaborate and work together the way they need to because they're
mm,
competing for grants and funding. Now, I'm
mm,
not saying it's everybody, I'm not saying it's everyone by no means, but a
mm,
lot of the bigger cities, that's what you see. The
mm,
smaller cities are a little better at it, but it still goes on.
mm,
But all that happens is that hurts the veterans when they get out of service, and then when we get home, they're like looking to get different resources and they get pointed that way, that way, that way, and there's no warm handoff. Like,
mm,
you know,
mm,
in my experience, I feel like if I'm working with a veteran, I'm going to walk them to that program and I'm going to get to know that program and a person at that program before I say, hey, go talk to them. I'm going to tell them, hey, go talk to Kevin. He's a great guy. He loves basketball, loves football, so you'll talk to him about that, but he'll take care of you. Because I think
Mm,
that warm handoff is something we don't do enough of. Some programs do, and it's amazing. I love it, but I hear about it way too often. Like, hey, go call that number, you'll be fine. But 9 times out of 10, that person, that veteran I'm working with, they're not going to call that number, not
mm.
unless you're with them or you're doing it for them. But I mean, there's a lot of different problems I could talk about, but that's one of the biggest ones I'm seeing.
And Zach, and that makes complete sense, right? Because you come out and you already have a lot of trust issues, and then you're pointed out to different resources, and then without a warm handoff, it can just not feel personal enough to
Mm,
initiate something. I think that's a very important message out there to all the nonprofits and teams and organizations that are working for veterans, that do a warm handoff. That's a very, very beautiful thing that you said. Real, right? Yeah. Talk to me about your nonprofit mission now. I'm so happy. I read your LinkedIn post, was so excited. I'm like, more information coming.
mhm.
I was so thrilled to talk to you about your own nonprofit now. Talk to me more about that, Zach.
Yeah, so with the vet QRF, the
Mm,
idea came to me was, well, through personal struggles. When I was younger, my kids were younger,
mm,
I struggled, with buying them birthday presents, Christmas presents, Valentine's Day stuff, whatever the case is, right? Throwing parties.
mm,
And, you know, it ate at me. I hated it. That's probably one of the things I hated most when I was younger because I was struggling
mm,
with everything. And then my kids had to struggle because of it. Um, and all I'm looking to do is assist that veteran and their family so they don't have to worry about that. Once we get this up and running, I want them to make a call, go to our website, and just be like, "Bam, you know what? I need help with my kid's birthday. I got this going on. I'm really hoping you can help me get a party somewhere, whatever the case might be. We'll book that party. We'll get everything taken care of so you can take your kid there and have the best time." Because I know I've worked with a few vets, well, a lot of vets that were struggling with stuff for their kids. Um, and one story, this is where everything's coming from through personal
mm,
experience, but also this one vet I worked with. 5 years ago, I met this one guy. He came into my office and he told me his whole story, opened up to me, and I was grateful he did, very thankful. And he told me about how he can't do stuff with his kids and his little girl specifically. And it was eating at him, seeing that his little girl was, having to deal with it because her dad was struggling. Um, so I had extra tickets. I took him to a basketball game, Milwaukee Bucks. I took my son, he took his daughter. His daughter had a great time, caught a little foam basketball. It was a great night. Next day, he texted me like, "No, thanks, brother. That meant everything to me." Just this last year, I saw him at a veterans event. He came up to me, and I remembered him, and he told me he's like he was so thankful that I was able to do that for him. Just take him to a game, nothing crazy, and that his daughter was able to have that kind of fun. Because after that, he started seeing his daughter more. Now he has 50-50 custody of her, and he goes back and says that basketball game kind of kicked it off. That he needed a wake up call, and seeing his daughter happy at that moment was everything to him. Snapped him out of it. He understood his problems, and now he's helping people all over the U.S. And I was just amazing to see it, amazing to hear it. It made me so happy, so happy. And that kind of idea coming from my own personal experience and him, it was like, man, I think kids, for veterans to have kids, I think kids are the key to their
mm.
happiness. And I think a lot of parents feel that way as a whole. So,
Such heartfelt. I have seen a lot of missions and organizations and nonprofits, but this is so unique because, as you rightly said, one of your nonprofit's mission is to include family support, not just the veteran.
mhm.
Why is it so important to ensure it's extended to the family support? You've touched based on this. If you can just deep dive into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, for more than half of my career in the veteran field, it's been VA disability claim.
Mm,
Now, it is a veteran's benefit,
mm,
but ultimately the families getting stuff from it as well, they're benefiting it too. It's not just the money. The money's one thing, that's great, that money pays bills, whatever keeps the lights on, but all these other state benefits that come with it, county benefits, is for the entire family, whether it's college benefits. Like my kids get to go to school for free one day for any UW school in Milwaukee or in Wisconsin, and I think it's great. They're grateful. Now my son's telling me he wants to go to the Marines. I'm like, okay, fine, but that's all right. He can do his own thing. He makes his own journey. But the benefits that come with it for a veteran is for their whole family, And when a veteran does enlist, it is for their family. Like when I went in, I did it for my family. Like I didn't have kids at the time, but I was doing it for the kids I didn't have. I was, moving forward, like I wanted to be the best me I could be, so the kids can see me and elevate their bar, so they could be better than me one day. And everything that a veteran deals with, if they have kids or family, they always put family first. That's a lot of vets. Almost every vet I work with, they always talk about
Mm.
their kids, their
Yeah.
significant others. That is the main focus. And knowing that that is a vet's mentality, that's the key right there. And getting more resources and programs out to support everybody, I think hopefully I'll be able to help more people.
Yeah. Yeah. With you on that. Onboarded, fully onboarded. Now tell me, as you build this nonprofit, right, are there some challenges that you've already tested? If yes, how do you plan to adapt? Like what stage is this in and when does it come to fruition, right? Just help our viewers
Yeah,
understand.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it's this idea's been in the loop and growing for maybe the past like month or so, like a few months. I just wanted to kind of connect the dots, and by dots, I just wanted to get the right partners involved. Um, by summertime, I want to be I want to have this up and running. Obviously, there's going to be funding involved. I have some supporters that will get some money in right away. I'm putting a lot personally to get it up and running, so that way we can get some help out there to the vets and their kids and families. Um, but it is brand new idea for the most part. And ultimately, I say summertime, but knowing me, it's going to be a lot sooner. Um, I'm going to get it up and running as soon as possible because I think time could be a life that we could be helping out there. So I don't want to waste any time and get this up and running so we can get some help out there for everyone.
Wonderful. Is it going to be slightly local when it comes to resources, or do you have some plans for this organization in the next 3 to 5 years? Too early to ask, but I just want to bite from you on that. What's like a long term vision for this
So
organization?
at first, I want all over the state of Wisconsin, right? That's you don't want to start too big, but I don't want to start too small. So
Hmm.
start everywhere, and then I'd say by year two, we're expanding across the Midwest, and then year 3 or 5, depending on everything that could happens between then, I want to get out across the U.S. Um, but also with that, I want to be like this, helping the veterans or families with their kids. That's the way we get it started. But ultimately, as we grow, I want to continue to for everything else to grow with it, get more help out there for whatever else is going on, whether it's helps pay for bills, power and stuff like that. I want to collaborate and connect with those resources that are out there, and if there's not any resources by them, then we can be that resource if we can. So I want to start with what we're doing with the kids and the veterans and their families, but I want to grow that to whatever the need might be later on because I want to keep that very open so that way we don't drop any balls. And I never want to say, nope, sorry, can't help you. Next. Like, that's the one thing I never want to say to anybody.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you said was the warm handoff, which could also be
Mhm.
such a crucial part of your messaging, Zach, because I think a lot of people know that, but they forget it. So a strong, constant, recurring reminder that please, with veterans, do a warm handoff and you will just make their life better by doing that. That is my biggest takeaway from talking to you so far. I'll
Mhm.
go back to veterans now, just veterans, right?
Yeah.
And this message is for all who are watching and for them to understand veterans better. What is that one misconception the public has, civilians have about veterans that you wish people would have understood better?
Not all veterans are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
I think that's one. And I'm not saying like we're crazy. I'm not saying we're not crazy. I think everyone's misunderstood. Not everyone. A lot of people are misunderstood exactly why we are the way we are. I am a very different person, and the man I'm talking like that's talking to you today, very different from the kid that went to the military, but also very different from the man that came back from Iraq. So through all that life experience that we've all served and did at the time, it made us who we are. Like I'm so happy to be home. I never want to go anywhere. I barely go anywhere. My family and friends always make fun of me because I'm just like I'm happy being here. And I live in Wisconsin. Right now it sucks. Now's the time to go anywhere. It's freezing here, but I'm so happy being home because I lived a very intense life for my time in the Marines. I loved it and I hated it. And I would do it again if I could. And I just, taking that out of it and moving forward, like people don't understand what that means. That 4 years I did active duty and that time in Iraq, it was a wake up call in life that, we could be gone tomorrow, but we have a life to live, and we have others that love us and support us. We got to continue moving forward and do the best we can.
Mm. Zach, just this population, the homeless and the suicidal veterans, because that population is really suffering right now. I think a lot of veterans are blessed to be back home and have a lot of support from family, but that is the most vulnerable population right there, the
Mm.
suicidally homeless veterans, right? Just for those veterans, do you have a message the moment they know suicidal ideation, thoughts, or they know they are in deep financial trouble? Do you have a message for them? And do you also have a message for civilians and what they can do for that population right
So I would say it's different
now? Hmm.
with every vet. I don't think there's a consistent word I could say to anyone. I've worked with a lot of suicidal vets throughout my career, and I feel like I've talked to them all differently. Um,
Hmm.
I do my best to connect with them the best I can. Um, and what does that mean exactly, right? Connecting with a vet, it's hard because you don't know their whole background. You know maybe a little bit. You know whatever they're telling you or giving you in a moment, and you kind of have to go with your gut on it, right? You have to go with your gut instinct to be like, all right, I'm gonna talk about this, or I'm not gonna talk about that, whatever, and hopes that they're gonna be like, you know what, yeah, he's a good dude. He's here for me. Um, Ultimately, it's to remind them all, you're not alone, man. I'm here for you. We're in this together. Um, to get there, to get a vet to feel that, there's no magic words. It's consistency and being persistent on getting through to that vet, and for them to know that you aren't going anywhere and you are there with them. You are feeling the moment in it with them. And it is intense and it is dark and it sucks, but you ain't going nowhere. Now, for civilians, looking at that and understanding it, they have to have that perspective and understanding because every vet goes through a different story, right? Their service is different no matter who you talk to. Um, and I think, civilians need, and their families too, they need to understand that when a vet comes home, they are going to be a little different sometimes. It's not always a bad thing. They're not always crazy. Um, Maybe misunderstood. People expect that people to be the same when they get out of service, and that's not the way the world works. A lot of us are just grateful to be here. And, if a civilian can understand, like, yeah, we all have different stories, and our view on things is going to be a little different because of what we've seen and what we did. You can understand that. I think that's the first step towards connecting with a vet and helping them.
Yeah, yeah, very powerful. Do you have an advice for somebody who wants to serve veterans in some capacity as a civilian, but they don't know where to start?
um I mean, depending where you are, there are programs all over the place, right? All over the world, all over the US. There are programs out there to help veterans. Now, depending on your community is going to determine exactly what those resources and benefits are, right? So whether it's volunteering at a nonprofit, contacting your local VA and the programs around it, there's always opportunities to help vets. Um, it's just finding somebody in a program to connect with. Now, if you could find somebody that is working with vets to help guide them to wherever that might be, that's probably even better. That's probably a little easier. I've helped a lot of people that are like, hey, I want to help vets. Where do I start? I find out where they live, connect them with a nonprofit or program local to them, and they can start volunteering and start understanding the veteran community because, you know, being a veteran advocate, it's not for everyone. It's very exhausting. You hit a lot of brick walls, and sometimes you hit your head against a brick wall because it's exhausting. But we got to keep going, and the more people we have involved in helping what we're doing, the better.
Right, right. One last question for today, and this is one of my favorites that I wanted to ask you. But do you have an important leadership lesson or life lesson that you have learned directly from either your own life experiences or from veterans themselves that you want to share with the audience today?
Yeah, yes, I do. Kind of dark, but I'll get into it with you. So when I was younger, when I was 13 years old, um, my mom was murdered, and I lost my mom, and it was a complete reset of my life. My mom was my best friend. My mom was the one woman that believed in me, and at times I still feel that. Right, like it's been 26 years. I'm 39 now, and that 13-year-old boy is still in me. That just feels the pain every single day. And my mom suffered from substance abuse, alcoholism, and never could get over that hump. And my mom one day, I threw out, I was, how old was I? Like 11 years old. And my mom would mix her alcohol with her pills, these uppers and downers my mom was on at the time. And it always made her real sick and would start seizing up. And it was always really bad. And I remember my mom bought a case of beer one day, and I saw it when I came home from school, and I threw it out in the dumpster. And my mom yelled at me, went out in the dumpster, grabbed it, and then opened a beer, and then came to me, and I was crying in my room. And my mom said to me was, "Ma said, I'm sorry for the person I am. I'm working on it. Be better than me. No matter what, be better than me." And it like stuck with me my whole life. Like my mom was an amazing woman, had her problems, her demons, but I lived my life for her and my kids before me. I just want her to be happy with who I am. I want her to be proud of the parent I am, because every day my mom has stuck with me. And then up to the day that I lost my mom, it was just hell for me for years as a kid. That's kind of why I went to the Marine Corps. And, that struggle is something I'm always going to remember. And in a weird way, the older I get, the more grateful I am that I went through that when I did, because now I can connect and I can help more people by understanding when they do lose a loved one. I know that pain. I live with that pain. I know that pain in a moment. I know that pain years from there when they're going to be from there. So it's understanding and knowing that feeling has really helped me be a better advocate, and a resource for veterans and people as a whole. So
Just want to take a moment to thank you because you are incredible, Zach, and that story, that life lesson from the leaf of your life is so powerful for a lot of us to remember what it looks like to carry that pain, that burden, and still stay strong and still carry that mission forward for others. So just want to take a moment to thank you for the incredible human and the incredible son and the incredible vet that you are. And we are so thankful, very, very thankful that you have thought about a nonprofit and something that would help more people in Wisconsin. I'm here to also help you if you need any help in Texas as such. But such a joy connecting with you today, and this is so powerful, so powerful. I think the only piece I want to ask you is regarding the nonprofit and how these civilians, this whole the entire US, most importantly, the viewers in Wisconsin, how can they come forward and help you and partner with you and collaborate to make it a huge success from here? Will you offer those announcements in just about, as you said, before summer? Will you let us know? How can we all support you in this
oh, yeah,
beautiful?
absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, getting the word out is the most important thing. I think for any startup business and any nonprofit that's getting started, getting the word out to the community, that marketing, is key. Because if people don't know the resources there, they're not going to use it. Um, that is by far the most important thing, and keeping that momentum moving forward so more and more people know. But yeah, if more people can just, once we get up and running, getting the word out and connecting veterans with these programs, whether it's my program or even other programs. I mean, again, like I said in the beginning, we all need to work together. And I think that'll be the way we help more people.
Yeah. And it's just about 40 minutes. I think you've offered us the 101 on effective collaboration between nonprofits and community partners here. So, very thankful for that. But I will do a 2.0 soulful conversations with you just after you've launched the nonprofit so that you can walk us through your website and tell us more about how we can partner with you. And I'm wishing all the success to you with this new nonprofit that you're going to come.
Awesome. No, thanks for his time today.
Absolutely. Well, viewers, I'm going to pause here, but I will have Zach back soon. And whatever questions that you have, we can always post them to Zach. But thank you so much for being with us today, Zach.
Absolutely. Thank you.